Today we will discuss on co-integration. In the last class, we have focused on how to perform unit test by following Dickey and Fuller, and by performing unit root test, we can find out the order of autoregression involved in a time series or the number of unit roots involved in a time series. Now, today, we are considering another aspect of a time series econometrics that is called co-integration. Now, the basic difference between today's analysis and we have discussed so far is that today we consider more than one time series together. Till our yesterday's class, we have concentrated on a single time series, YT, and we are trying to look at the stochastic behavior of YT, whether unit root presence or not, or nature of non-stationarity, non-stationarity because of unit root, or non-stationarity because of without unit root. Okay. Now today we consider more than one time series together. So when we are considering more than one time series, the basic problem is to find out the relationship between them. So how to estimate a relationship? In finding out relationship between two or more variables, we are familiar with OLS, ordinary least square, or maximum likelihood estimates, or method of moments. So whatever may be the method of estimation, we have to take care of simple linear regression model for two variables, y and x. If we have more than two variables, that is more than one regressors, in that case, we need to deal with multiple linear regression model. And you are familiar with how to deal with multiple linear regression model with cross-section data. So we have discussed several aspects of multiple linear regression model. If we want to apply this model with cross-section data. Now, if we have a time series data, before applying OLS or maximum likelihood in multiple linear regression model or simple linear regression model, we have to be careful. And for that reason, we need to another concept, that is co-integration. Now, this concept was developed by Clive Granger in 1981. And this is a very, very famous work of Granger. It was published in Journal of Econometrics in 1981. The title of the paper, Some Properties of Time Series Data and Their Use in Econometric Model Specification. So this is the very famous work of Granger. And Granger, in fact, awarded Nobel Prize because of this work. So it is the development of the concept of co-integration actually changed the techniques, econometric techniques, particularly applicable for the macroeconomic analysis. Now, let me start with the basic concept. How do we, what do we mean by co-integration? So let me start with the basic concept as defined in Granger 1981. Co-integration means, if we look at the term co-integration, means co-movement of integrated series. Co-movement of integrated series. In other words, one integrated series follows stochastic behavior of another integrated series. So co-integration means we have several integrated series And this integrated series follows similar kind of stochastic trend or similar kind of stochastic behavior. So if the time series variables follow similar kind of stochastic trend, they will be called co-integrated. Clear? So co-integrated or co-integration simply means the co-movement of the integrated series. You know the meaning of integrated series? Integrated series means the series containing unit root. So if different series with unit roots have co-movement, that is similar kind of movement over time, then we can say the variables are co-integrated. And this concept of co-integration particularly useful when we want to estimate relationship between non-stationary variables. As I have started with the basic problem of estimation between two or more time series variables, either by applying OLS or by applying maximum likelihood. The typical problem we have to face if we have a time series data. So what kind of typical problem we have to face if we apply OLS? And in that stage, we can understand why do we need this kind of concept to eliminate the problem we have in estimation. Okay. So co-integration means, so we can start with the concept of co-integration in this way. Co-integration means co-movement of several integrated series or co-movement of several time series with unit roots. In other words, when the time series variables with unit roots follows stochastic trend, similar kind of stochastic trend, then we can say they are co-integrated. Now the question is, why do we need this kind of concept? To understand it, let we consider the case of estimation if we have a time series data. Now, one important feature of non-stationary time series is that they are highly correlated, although there is no causal explanation for the relationship between them. If you have x1, x2, x3, x4, several time series, for example, and suppose you have taken the variables arbitrarily, and suppose in reality there is no reason x1 and x2 are related, but if we try to estimate the relationship between x1 and x2 with time series data by applying OLS, we get highly significant result. Have you got my point? So if we have a non-stationary time series.
Sir, would you explain this another? Sir, would you explain this one more?
Yes. Suppose we have several non-stationary time series variables. Now, one of the important features of non-stationary time series variables is that they would be highly correlated. If the variables are non-stationary, the variables will be highly correlated. Now, you need to understand the meaning of correlation. You know the definition of correlation coefficient, definition of regression coefficient. Correlation coefficient suggests the degree of relationship between two or more variables. So, in the case of a time series, if you have high correlation, you can expect the variables are to be correlated. Okay, so this kind of correlation, if we take it purely in statistical sense, there is no problem. But if we want to relate the value of the correlation in real life, then we have to face a problem. Take for example, if we have two variables, consumption and income. We know from economic theory, consumption and income are correlated, and there are several explanations why consumption is related to income. And if you have a consumption data, if you have a income data, and if you calculate the correlation between consumption and income, you will get high value of correlation coefficient. So high value of correlation coefficient between consumption, expenditure, and income can be explained in terms of the economic theory or in terms of the real life experience we have. But suppose you have two variables. One is consumption expenditure, another is car accident. So one variable x1 indicates consumption expenditure, another variable x2 indicates car accident. So your real life experience should suggest there should be no correlation between consumption expenditure and car accident, because there is no theoretical logic behind how number of car accident depends on consumption expenditure or consumption expenditure depends on number of car accidents. But if you mechanically try to calculate correlation between consumption expenditure and car accident, you will get high value of correlation coefficient. So high value of correlation coefficient, at least in statistical sense, indicates number of car accidents and consumption expenditure are highly correlated. But actually there is no meaning of this kind of correlation. Okay, similarly, we can use this concept in the case of a regression. If we try to estimate the relationship between consumption expenditure or car accident, so your logical proposition suggests there should be no correlation, or the regression coefficient between consumption expenditure and car accident should be 0. But if you estimate the relation by applying OLS, if you have a time series data, you will get highly significant value of beta hat. Beta hat means the regression coefficient for car accident and consumption expenditure in our example. So this high value of correlation coefficient or high value of regression coefficient between the non-stationary variables in many cases provides nonsense result. This is the basic problem that was identified long years back in 1926 by Yule. And this problem, this typical type of problem is called the problem of spurious regression. So spurious regression means, in statistical sense, you have got a highly significant result. That is, your regression coefficient is highly significant in terms of t statistics, in terms of the value of r squared, etc. But in reality, there is no meaning at all of this relationship. So this kind of regression is called the spurious regression. So if you have a non-stationary time series, and if you try to find out the relationship between them, there is a probability in getting this kind of spurious regression. So this is the basic problem in using time series data for estimating a model. And this problem is called the problem of spurious regression. Now, how do we understand your estimated results may be spurious or not? So you have a data, you have time series data, you have obtained the OLS estimates of beta hat, OLS estimate of beta naught hat. Beta naught hat is the intercept term in a simple linear regression model, for example. Beta hat is the regression coefficient. So after estimating the model by OLS, you have a value of beta hat corresponding to which t statistics is significant. That is, if you carry out t-test suggests beta hat not equal to 0. Similarly, if you look at the value of r square is significantly high. Okay, but along with this, if you try to find out the estimated value of autocorrelation coefficient, if you test serial correlation, if you test autocorrelation, and you know the classic test for autocorrelation is Darwin-Watson test. So if you look at the statistics for Darwin-Watson, and you know the value of Darwin-Watson equal to 2 suggests there is no correlation, no serial correlation. So if you have Darwin-Watson statistics corresponding to an econometric model is equal to 2 or nearly equal to 2, it suggests there is no problem of serial correlation in your model. But if the value of Darwin-Watson is deviating from 2, that is nearly equal to 0 in absolute sense, in that case, it indicates a problem of serial correlation in your regression model. So, in an OLS estimates, either in simple linear regression model or in multiple linear regression model, if you have highly significant value in terms of R square, in terms of T statistics, simultaneously, you have got a low value of Darwin-Watson. So high R square and low Darwin-Watson statistics, these are the symptoms for spurious regression. So if your model provides high value of R square and low value of Darwin-Watson statistics, it suggests your result may be spurious. And this kind of spurious regression will appear only when the random disturbance term is not white noise. Think about a simple linear regression model, the basic structure of a simple linear regression model. Yt is equal to beta naught plus beta 1 xt plus epsilon t, where epsilon t is a random error. And we assume in all cases, expected value of epsilon t equal to 0, variance of epsilon t is equal to constant sigma square, covariance of epsilon t minus k 0. So these assumptions are called the classical assumptions. And if these assumptions are fulfilled, epsilon t, the random error, will be purely random or stationary, or in time series terminology, it is called white noise. So in a linear regression model, you will get meaningful result if these assumptions are fulfilled. That is, when the error epsilon t is white noise, when the error epsilon t is purely random, in that case, you will get a meaningful result from your regression model. But if the error is not purely random, if the error is non-stationary, if the error contains unit root, in that case, you will get a spurious result or the nonsense result. Although in terms of conventional statistics, in terms of T statistics, in terms of R square, we have significant results. But because of the presence of serial correlation identified by the low value of Darwin-Watson, the results will not be meaningful at all. Okay, so if you have a time series data and you want to estimate a model with time series data, you have to be careful about the value of Darwin-Watson along with T statistics as well as R square. If Darwin-Watson is very low, it will be an indication that your result may be spurious. And in that case, you should be careful before using your estimated results in your purpose. Okay, and this kind of spurious result appears in a regression model only when the error term used in a model is not white noise. Okay, and so this type of spurious regression, possibility for spurious regression in a simple linear regression model or multiple linear regression model may appear only in the case of a time series data. So that's why this is the typical problem of estimation with time series data. So if you try to estimate a model with time series data, you may have to face this kind of problem. That is, you will get a good result and you may be happy by looking at the value of your regression coefficient in terms of T statistics, in terms of R square, you will be happy. But if we calculate the Darwin-Watson, and if the Darwin-Watson is very low, then you have to be careful, because in that case, your result may not be meaningful at all. Your result may be spurious. That is, if you have a car accident as a regressor and consumption expenditure as a regression, you will get a highly significant value of beta hat. So this kind of problem may appear in the case of a time series data. Now the question is, why this kind of problem appears in a time series data, but this type of typical problem is not appear normally in cross-section data? Try to understand this problem. Simple correlation or correlation in statistical sense, regression in statistical sense suggests simply the statistical relationship between two or more variables. So correlation coefficient does not surely provide you that the correlation appears because of the causal relationship between them. So causal relation may be something different from the statistical relation between two or more variables. So your regression coefficient or the correlation coefficient simply provide you the statistical relationship between two or more variables. Now in a time series, you will get high value of correlation, statistical correlation, particularly when the variables are non-stationary. Why? Non-stationary time series means, you know, they will follow some kind of trend. Okay. So suppose we have two time series data, one is YT, another one is XT, and they are not causally related. For example, suppose YT denotes consumption expenditure, as I have already mentioned. XT denotes number of car accident. So we are considering two variables, Y and X, and they are non-stationary. We are considering that they are the non-stationary variables. So non-stationary variables means, why we are assuming they are non-stationary variables? Because spurious regression, the possibility for spurious regression will appear only in the case of a non-stationary variables. If your variables are stationary, then you do not have to face this kind of problem in your estimation problem. Okay. For that reason, we are considering that the two variables YT and XT are non-stationary. Now, try to understand the meaning of non-stationary. So, YT non-stationary means YT follows some kind of trend. XT non-stationary means XT follows some kind of trend. In other words, over time, YT changes. Similarly, over time, XT changes. Changes means over time, either X increases or decreases. Similarly, over time, either Y increases or decreases, whatever may be. So the change in Y over time, the change in X over time. Now, suppose we want to plot the data Y and X in a two-dimensional space. You will get a scatter diagram. So as Y is a trending variable, X is a trending variable, Y follows some kind of change, as well as X also follows some kind of change. So obviously there should be some kind of relationship between Y and X, although in reality there is no relation between Y and X, but because of the trending behavior of Y, trending behavior of X, you may get some kind of relationship between Y and X. So for that reason, if you calculate simply correlation coefficient between Y and X, you will get the high value of correlation coefficient. And similarly, if you try to estimate the relationship between Y and X by applying OLS, you will get the high value of regression coefficient. So high value of regression coefficient you are getting here in this example simply because the trending behavior of the variables, not because they are related in causal sense. Okay, so this kind of problem is the problem of spurious regression in econometric literature, and this spurious regression may appear in the case of a time series. Okay. Now we have 10 minutes left for this session. So after that, we can start again by using a new session. So till now, we continue our discussion. So hopefully it is clear how do we get a spurious regression in the case of a non-stationary time series variables. Okay. And this kind of problem we do not face if we have a cross-section data. If we estimate a model with cross-section data, we do not have to face this kind of problem. That is, so if you try to estimate a simple linear regression model or multiple linear regression model with number of car accident and consumption expenditure in cross-section data rather than time series. That is, you are collecting data relating to number of car accidents from several places at a particular point of time, and you are collecting data for consumption expenditure at a particular point of time, but from different spaces. And if you use this kind of cross-section data on the same variables in OLS estimates, you will not get significant result, indicating that there is no relation between car accident and the consumption expenditure. But if you have a time series variable on car accident, if you have a time series variable on consumption expenditure, and you try to estimate a model with OLS, you will get a significant result. So this is the basic difference between time series data and cross-section data when we apply in a linear regression model. So the question is, so how to overcome this problem? I have already mentioned that the possibility of spurious regression appears only when the error is not white noise. If the error is non-random, in that case, spurious regression may appear. So for meaningful estimation, we need the disturbance term to be random or the disturbance term to be purely white noise. Okay, but in time series, there is no guarantee that epsilon t should be white noise. Although we assume, by assumption epsilon t is white noise, we assume always expected value of epsilon t equal to 0, variance of epsilon t is sigma squared, etc. So this is by assumption. But if we use time series data, this assumption may not be valid ultimately. That is, ultimately epsilon t may not be white noise, and the problem of spurious regression will appear. Now, let we understand, why do we need the error term to be white noise? Why do we need error should be random in a meaningful regression model? So to understand this problem, let we concentrate on the simple linear regression model, but with time series data. So we are considering here two variables, x1 and x2, and our model x1t is equal to beta1 plus beta2 x2t plus epsilon t. Okay, epsilon t is the error. Now, take for example, x1t indicates aggregate consumption expenditure, x2t indicates national income. So this is the linear relationship between national income and aggregate consumption expenditure, and you are familiar with this kind of consumption function in macroeconomics. So if we want to estimate consumption function following the macroeconomic theory, and if we assume the relationship is linear, so the linear relationship between x1 and x2 is coming from the theory of consumption expenditure in macroeconomics. So if suppose there is no epsilon t conceptually, so you have a straight line equation, you have a linear equation between x1t plus is equal to beta1 plus beta2 x2t. So this linear part is coming directly from the theory. So without epsilon t, we have the theoretical part of the relationship. Okay, and we have described earlier at the beginning of your econometrics class, to understand the meaning of econometric model, the meaning of the population regression function. Population regression function also looks like this. In the population regression function, there is no epsilon t because of the assumption expected value of epsilon t equal to 0. So population regression function is used as a proxy for the theoretical relation. Okay, so whatever may be, this linear relation x1t is equal to beta1 plus beta 2 into x2t up to this appears from the theory. So what is the role of epsilon? Epsilon simply disturbs the linear relationship between x1 and x2. That's why we call epsilon as a disturbance term or the error. So the error makes the deviation of the actual data point from the linear behavior which is obtained from the theory. Okay, so the presence of epsilon indicates the deviation of the actual data point from the theoretical relationship we have specified. Okay, so when your model will be meaningful, if the deviation is a temporary phenomenon, then the model you have specified will be meaningful. But if the deviation is not a temporary phenomenon, if the deviation is a long-lasting phenomenon, in that case, this linear regression model will not be meaningful at all. Okay, so the error term shows in equation 1 the deviation of actual data point from the assumed linear behavior. Now, if epsilon t is white noise, in that case, the deviation is purely a temporary phenomenon. For that reason, we need the error term to be white noise. So if error term is white noise, your actual situation, the reality may deviate from the theory temporarily or for a very, very short period. And you can converge towards the theory after a very short period of time. So if epsilon t is a random, purely random in your model, it indicates the deviation of the actual situation from the theoretical one is purely accidental. So incidentally, the actual behavior deviates from the linear point and it will return immediately or during a very short period of time to the theoretical line. So if epsilon t or the error is random, then the deviation of actual situation from the theoretical one will be purely temporary, and we can deal with the theoretical relationship with this kind of specification. Okay, so in that case, OLS estimation will be consistent to the theoretical relation. So OLS estimation will be consistent only when the random error epsilon t is white noise. Clear up to this point? So we'll move to the next session because we have a few seconds left. So we stop here for this session and we'll again join after 1 or 2 minutes after getting the new link. So please wait for that.